Welcome to another edition of All Octaves with me, Val Kleinhans, where we talk music with the fans and the people who make music. Alyxx is one of those people, and she is here. She is an independent solo artist based out of Rockland County, New York. Her sound is sort of a mix of hard rock and metal with some keyboards and some synth. You can hear all of it. She's excited, especially because she wants to chat about her newest single, Alive, which is out now as well. All the things we're going to discuss. Alyxx, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start from the very beginning because I want to find out more about where you come from. I haven't heard of Rockland County, New York. So paint a picture for me. What is Rockland County like?
So Rockland County is about a half hour, or about like, well, with me driving, a half hour from
Ah,
Manhattan. So
a little
from
bit of a lead
Manhattan,
foot.
a little bit. So it's
Yeah.
super close to the city, Manhattan, New York City. And yeah, so it's like it's a suburb right out of that. Because I'm so close, I spent majority of my life in New York City. So sometimes I just say I'm from New York City because people know what that is and they don't really know what Rockland County is. But yeah,
Oh,
it's a
got it. Got it. Okay. Like anybody outside of New York wouldn't know. But
yeah.
okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. So I tell me about the moment that you decided to take singing seriously and make it a career because you have been doing this for some time.
Yeah. Well, when I started doing theater professionally when I was 11. So
Mm.
again, being so close to the city, like being able to do shows there was just really cool. I was very fortunate to do. So yeah, when I was like 11, I started singing um like on stage, but I think my first show I was like 8. But again, that was theater stuff, which is very different from like your own music. But I'm trying to think 2017 is when I released my first single with my solo project, and the first show we played was 2018. So I've been doing like my own stuff for a little while now. But yeah, I've just been singing my whole life.
You're not the first person to say that musical theater or acting or, singing in plays had an influence on them either. I've heard that from tons of other singers. Do you think that that's just a good place to cultivate that bug and maybe try it out and see if this is what you really want to do?
I mean, like starting with theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Mhm.
But first of all, it helps when you're on stage, you don't get stage fright because you're just so comfortable and like it becomes like your second home. I think also it sounds silly, but I also used to be a dancer, so like being able to dance and sing at the same time really helps when you're running around on stage and trying to sing at the same time. So I think like my training has really helped me for performing. So I
Yeah.
think that's a good place to start.
Well, that's good because a lot of people deal with stage fright and some don't even know how to deal with it. For you, it was sort of like exposure therapy, it sounds like from the very beginning.
My parents are always like, "You just look so comfortable on stage," even when I was like a young kid. And obviously, like, there are times like you get nerves, and it's funny because like when you're younger, you have zero. For me, I had no nerves, and then as I got older,
Mhm.
and like I think also like the shows I were doing were like now professional and like the stakes were higher. But so you right before you step on stage, you're like, "Oh shit," but then you get up on stage, and then like everything just kind of falls into place.
Well, I've always wanted to ask someone experienced in performing, anybody really, this question. I haven't yet because it just popped into my head. What do you do when you are on stage, you're looking out and you're just not getting the reaction from the crowd that you hope to get? Maybe they look tired, maybe they look bored. How do you shake things up and put yourself in a better environment?
The thing is you kind of can't let it get to you because
Mm.
as much as like you want the audience interaction, if they're not feeling it, like you can't. I've seen this before where the audience wasn't giving the performer what they really wanted and they were kind of like in a pissy mood because of it. You gotta
Ronnie
like,
Radke. Ronnie Radke.
oh no. You got to keep going and you just
Yeah.
got to act like everybody is there to see you and like you're the headliner even though you're not, just like keep giving it your all. And then I think also energy can be like intoxicating, so like if you're giving off so much like energy and like I don't know, good vibes, I think it can
Mhm.
translate into the audience and then kind of like pull them out of whatever funk. Or sometimes some audience members just suck and that's just it's just the way it is.
And you're just there to do your thing, and that's really your only focus.
And I'm
Just
having fun. So
That's the key. Okay. That's the key. I would imagine that would definitely have to be the focus for sure. I appreciate that you're not afraid to do covers either. I've seen a few of those online. For those who don't know, you've done just a few: Flyleaf, Breaking Benjamin, Catch a Breath, 3 Days Grace. Are you really into these bands? Like, are they sort of influences for you?
Yeah. It's sometimes like I'll do a cover if someone, asks for it. But a lot of times there are songs that I love to sing anyways, and if I'm practicing and singing in my basement, I figured might as well just record it and share it with people. But I also use it as an excuse to practice Pro Tools and recording and mixing. So I
Okay.
figured again, if I'm gonna be doing that anyways, might as well just post it.
Is that something you take on more so, the production aspect anyway, as a solo artist, doing a lot of that yourself?
Yeah. So for pretty much every song recently, well, actually since like 2019, I've recorded piano, synth, strings, and all that stuff at my studio, and then I would like send it off to my other studio and then like worked from there. Um, I actually have a new song coming out in November. It's, it's in the process, but it's going to be
Cool.
probably like the beginning of November at this point. But I did everything at my home studio, including vocals. So that's just something I'm trying to get more confident with and more comfortable with. So then I can do majority of the stuff at my house.
That makes sense. And then covers are your excuse to just play with that and try it out and see what happens.
Exactly. And then plus, like, I'm weird. I like to record at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So like most of the stuff that I was just knocked in my water bottle. Most of the stuff that I recorded, it was like 2, 3 a.m.
Yeah. I don't know why, but our best ideas tend to come in the middle of the night, or at least when I know I want to create something or I have an idea for a podcast episode or something like that. I'm like, oh, it's I shoot out of bed at like in the morning and I gotta go make this now. I gotta go turn on my computer now. And then my husband looks at me like I'm a crazy person. Like, get back to bed. What are you doing?
Oh, I have an idea. It's gonna go away.
It's I just need to get this out and then I'll feel better about it. And then
Feel that.
maybe I'll go back to bed. Maybe. But well, so I was doing a little more reading on your website too, and I read that speaking of shows, you have played Blue Ridge Rock Festival before, not this year. And oh yeah, I was just curious about your thoughts on this because there's been a lot of chatter on it. Since you, what was your experience like? Was it anything like the disaster that was this year?
Not even close. I
Yeah.
listened to I forgot his name, something manager. He like put out this
Mm,
whole video on, I don't know if you saw it on YouTube, talking from
yeah.
his experience as like a band manager or like tour manager and how everything like he dealt with. And it was very interesting because I didn't experience any of that. And I don't think any of the bands that I did it 2021. And
Hmm.
like there was food, there was water, there was catering, I mean, it was unorganized, of course, but like we had resources and things. So it was just like it's a very different experience. But I do know the people that were like camping and people that were like attendees of the festival experienced it a little bit different. Again, I think,
Hmm.
water was a big thing. I don't know why they don't understand it's the summer. Like you need
Yeah.
a excessive amount of water for people. And I was talking to some people and they were saying that, long lines waiting for the shuttles to go back and forth. So it was hard for them, but I don't think it was anywhere near what it was this past year. And I don't know how they're going to bounce back from this.
Yeah. What do you think the difference was? Was maybe you might know the details. Was there like a change in management or different people running it?
I think they changed the location, which I
Mm,
think
okay.
has a little bit to do with it. And I think I don't know for sure, but again, from that video, the guy was saying that they had outsourced to another company to run the logistics, and the team, I think, just wasn't informed. And I think it's
Okay.
probably a mixture of, not being informed and then people not asking questions. So again, I don't know. I was not there, but just trying to gather the information from like everybody's stories. So
Yeah, I wanted to learn about it all too because I was like, how in the world does this happen? But I mean, you touched on something important too that not a lot of if you're not a performer, you wouldn't know this is what I'm getting at. Sometimes it is unorganized chaos behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
you've dealt with this. What would your advice be to a newer performer that maybe is just realizing that that's just how it goes sometimes?
Yeah, just have a plan, but understand that plan is probably not going to happen. So just be confident and comfortable with adapting and changing. I mean, simple things like when I went and played, I was in contact with them. I told them like these are all the things I'm using, this is my wireless system, whatever. And I
Okay.
get there and they're like, okay, you can't use your in-ears. Or you like have to either use your in-ears or your microphone. You can't use both. And I was
What?
like, okay, so I'd rather sound good and hope to God I can hear myself. So thank God they had monitors in the front. So they just like really, made those incredibly loud for me. But it was like
Okay.
little things like that. So I like walked in, I was like, okay, now I can't hear anything on the stage. Like this is not okay. But again, adapt. And I was like, I know what the notes are and just hope for the best.
Just I'm gonna sing this the way that I know how to sing it and pray to God that it translates to everybody listening. And
Literally what I did. But
it sounds like it. I mean, and you seem to enjoy touring. You seem to enjoy doing a lot of shows. So I'm glad that you haven't stopped because we want to see you for sure.
I would love to. Yeah, that's the one thing I want to like tour and do like, I want to see the world. No, but really like I want to play in different
Yeah.
venues, different people and other bands too, which is really cool.
Your dream lineup with you included in it, what would that be?
Oh man. Uh everything went out the window. I would definitely I mean, I'd love to tour with Evanescence. I mean, they're a huge influence. Also
Right.
Saint Asonia, because it's Adam Gantier's band, and he's been a huge influence on me too. Um, Breaking Benjamin, that would be awesome. I'm trying to think of like bands that like I looked up to and I don't say like idolized because that sounds kind of weird, but like was influenced by. So
Yeah,
being
yeah.
able to share the stage with them, I'd be like, holy shit.
Yeah, that would be life changing. That would be like me doing an episode of this podcast with like some of the best broadcasters ever, or some of the ones that would be like me going on with Howard Stern or whatever. I'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing a show with him. You on stage with Amy Lee would probably be the same thing, and I'm sure you both would crush it.
I,
Totally.
I would just be like the whole time, just like probably staring at her and not even the audience. Just be like,
Wait, is anything actually coming out of my mouth? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know right
I'm
now.
pretty, I'm pretty good. Like I've met plenty of people, and I'm pretty good at not trying to like be overly starstruck. But there are some
Yeah.
times I'm just like, okay, that would be one of those moments.
How do you prevent that? Because that is a challenge. You don't want to like totally just come at this person with so much energy, but
Yeah.
you seem to be very chill. So how do you keep the starstruck level at like a 2 and not a 20?
Honestly, just breathe and
Yeah.
just be like, okay, just like compose yourself. Like this is just another person. Like just relax. Um, Honestly, I think it's just like trying to control my breathing because sometimes I mean you can't help it. You get excited when you meet like cool
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. And try and breathing does help regulate emotion. I definitely learned that in just my own like mental health care. I've learned that for myself. Like whenever I get really anxious about something, I'm like, okay, just slow down the breathing and then everything else will follow.
It's also a trick in like martial arts, like when I did Muay Thai and Kali, like just
Oh,
when you get your adrenaline up and like in especially when you're like sparring and just training, you don't actually want to like kill the other person. So sometimes like if they land a good hit or a good kick and your adrenaline just goes like into beast mode, you have to like breathe through that. So it's like you just, be smart. Don't just go off of emotions. It's a
yeah.
good
I think that seems to be like what a lot of martial arts teaches is not necessarily here's how to totally own someone in the face, but here's how to more so protect yourself and
yeah.
deal with whatever energy is coming at you. Would you ever do Muay Thai in a music video? Because you have some cool music videos too.
I actually, so my video for this war, I actually have like a little fight scene with my friend Ken. We both trained in Kali for like 3.5 years together. So
Yeah.
choreographed a little fight for me. Um, so that was cool. So I do like there's a little bit of fighting in that.
Cool. Who was the last person that you got seriously starstruck with? I meant to ask that too.
Oh man. Uh I think again, well, yeah, probably Adam Gontier. It was a little while
Mhm.
ago, but he definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't help it. I was just like, oh shit.
No. Yeah, you remember like that for me, that was like the last time that I met Joe Perry or I met the guys. What was it? I met the Struts very briefly one time. I did an interview with Alethea Taylor one time. I was like, she's on my computer screen. Oh my God. Like,
That's
just,
awesome.
yeah, just those moments, you never forget them. And I so appreciate them every single time. So let's get to the meat of the situation, which is Alive. We're stoked for that right now. It's out now. Tell me the story of it.
So, I was deciding, I was like, okay, so I have to, figure out a plan. And I was trying to, start writing a new song essentially. And I have a bunch of like voice notes and video clips of me like playing piano and trying to like see if anything could like spark an idea. And I found a video of me playing, which is now the intro. And I like found it and I wrote it like 2 years ago, maybe. And
Mm.
I just like sat down and all of a sudden it just kind of like morphed into one thing into the next. And again, next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I have this whole like orchestration laid out with like I can't play drums, but I use like MIDI drums and like MIDI bass. And I just kind of was like, okay, it's like now it's like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I need to go to bed. But then I had an idea for the chorus, and I was like, okay, like 5 more minutes. And then I recorded the chorus and then I went to bed. But yeah, that just kind of like, I don't know, the whole song just kind of like happened really fast.
Yeah. And you did something really cool in showing, you showed a bit of that demo on Instagram,
Yeah.
and we were able to compare and contrast to what that was then and what it is now. Now it just sounds more polished. When I
Yeah.
listen to it, the version for, I mean, I'm not a producer, so I don't know the correct terminology, but when I hear it, it just sounds like it's more polished, more brushed up.
Yeah.
Is that you like putting that prettiness on it?
No, I did not mix and master that song. So the first
Okay.
version you hear is my mixing.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay.
Not very good at that. And then the last version you hear is the one I sent off to a producer named Jeff Dune, and he mixed and mastered that song. So, and then there
Okay.
was also like real instruments in it because the one I did, like I said, I can't really play drums at all. So those were all like programmed. And of course, you
Mhm.
can like mix program drums to sound good, but again, I can't really mix, so I just kind of kept everything very basic.
I think you're going to be able to someday, because when you start to play with production programs, you're sort of, it's like tattoos. You get one and you experiment with one, and then you want, ah, she's holding up her arms. They're all over her arms.
Awkward.
I love it. So you know what I'm saying. When you get one, you
Oh
don't
yeah,
end up with just one. You end up with like 10. And for me, I don't know, producing programs, at least for audio production, with what I do, you start a little bit and then you're like, I got to be doing this all the time, and I want to like learn all these little mechanisms, and what does this button do and what does that button do, and ooh,
yeah.
like,
Literally trial and error on my end.
yeah, that's all it is. I look at it like a chemistry lab. You're just kind of putting things together and seeing what works, and it either does or it doesn't, or maybe it needs a tweak, maybe it doesn't need a tweak. You just have fun.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are plenty of times where I've tweaked something. I was like, this sounds great. And again, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, it sounds great. And then I wake up the next day and I listen back and I was like, what did I do?
You're that was at 4 a.m. delirium where you're like, it's great.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
I've gotten to
no.
a point now that I know, even if it's like, well, I can hear myself starting to like not hear things clearly anymore. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna stop and I'm going to revisit this tomorrow and hope for the best.
Got it. Well, we definitely love the new single. What else is coming from you? You mentioned there's something coming in the very beginning of November.
Yeah.
Anything else you're looking forward to?
So that's actually going to be a reimagined version of Alive.
Oh,
So,
cool.
um, I keep hearing it. I start to hear it a little bit differently, and I kind of, it's a reimagined version. So it's pretty cool. And I'm also planning a music video for another single that's not going to be out till like next year. But all of this is kind of happening at the same time. So just trying to like get things in order.
Got it. But chaos, but good chaos,
Totally.
understandably. I love the idea of just tweaking things and making it sort of your own version or a revamp version or whatever. Like Demi Lovato has been doing that by
Yeah.
taking her old tracks and making them with a little bit more of a rock edge. Taylor's doing it with Taylor's version for legal reasons. I love that idea. Was that something, were people like that, or do they inspire you to do this, or was just something from your own creative mind that you were looking to do anyway?
So I mean, I know people have been doing it for a while. So there I have a song called Lose It All that I had released in my EP in 2018. And during the pandemic, the lyrics just really were hitting me hard again.
Mm, mhm,
And I originally wrote it as like a more like orchestra based piece. And I like decided to like go back and redo it in that sense. And again, I sang it differently. It was a completely new version of it. And I think like where I was mentally, like it really made sense. And the more I like listen to a live again, like everything I write starts on piano. So I
okay.
was hearing where it could have gone if I went a different direction. So I think the reimagined versions are kind of like more personal to me because they're more like my orchestra creations that
Mhm.
is something that I love to do. But I mean, I also like the original version is my favorite, obviously, because it has like, the heavy guitars and the riffs and the drums and like that whole thing is like my forte. Like I absolutely love that. But also being able to explore that other side of me, which is like I listen to a lot of classical music and like that's a big part of me as well.
Yeah, I've always felt that the two go hand in hand. You don't have a lot of rock and heavy metal without elements of classical and elements of blues.
Yeah.
That's what starting with from Black Sabbath on. Like that's just from my listening ear. That's what where I realized that it came from.
No,
So
definitely.
you're honoring your roots. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
Well, I can't wait for everything to come. Alyxx, thank you so much for sitting with me, for chatting with me. I can't wait for it all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.